Good morning, everyone. It's 9:30. I will call this meeting to order and ask that we stand for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see our gallery full. We do have some of the sound deadening panels that have been removed in the council chambers, so if the sound echoes a little bit, we apologize for that. But I would ask the clerk if there's any rise and report from in camera.
Thank you, Warden. I have two announcements before getting into the rise and report from the in-camera session. In terms of the two items, first, Mr. Jerry Westgate is here today as the alternate member for Jackie Rumboats. Welcome. Secondly, Ms. Councillor Hand has submitted a declaration of a conflict pertaining to the presentation from the Sarnia-Lambton tourism folks as well as Blue Water Health. So that's recorded on file. And then in terms of the in-camera session, there were four matters that Council addressed. Number one, Council approved its November 27th, 2019 in-camera minutes. Secondly, Council received an update on negotiations for a 20-year lease at Bayside Centre in the city of Sarnia and heard that the finish line is nearing and in sight. Thirdly, Council also approved its Committee AM in-camera minutes and the county and heard that the county is entering into a license agreement to acquire small property rights along Highway 402 to house its Welcome to Lambton sign along the highway. And of course, Council adopted its Committee PM minutes. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. We have a number of delegations this morning, and so I would ask for a motion to allow the presenters for the delegations to come within the rail. Councillor Boucher, seconded by Councillor Han. All in favor of that? That is carried. And we'll start right off with Town of Petrolia, Laurissa Ellsworth, and Mr. David Hogan regarding the Victoria Playhouse. If you come forward. Welcome. Have a seat. Yep. You just have to push the button on the mic when you're ready to.
Your Worship, do you mind if we stand?
Right.
Do you mind if we stand to present?
It's up to you. If you'd like to stand, just use the microphone and you're.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Morden, County Council, staff. We're here from the Victoria Playhouse, Petrolia, a place that I have worked for 20 years. My name is Laurissa. I started as a house manager. I am currently now the Director of Marketing, Arts and Communications for the town. So to say that I have lived in the Victoria Playhouse most of my life, it's absolutely true. Our building on the outside is 131 years old. On the inside, it's about 28, and we're starting to see signs of that age. In 2011, we welcomed my friend and colleague, co-artistic director David Rogers here, and co-artistic director David Hogan to our organization. And by 2016, we saw the highest ticket sales for our organization in the history of the Victoria Playhouse. So talking more a little bit about our success so that you can see exactly why we're here today and not 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we didn't need to be here to talk to you. Because we did not have the capacity challenges that we're faced with today. We're the only professional theatre in Lambton County that produces our own work. We see more than 90 bus groups or groups that travel in groups of cars every year, which equates to over 4,000 tickets. We are number one in seats sold to capacity in comparison to other major theaters in the area, and those theaters are Stratford, Shaw, and the Drayton Festival. We've observed a 12% increase in ticket sales from 2016 to 2018. Our visitor spending has been the highest we've seen using the TREM model, which is a provincial model, and that's over $4,300,000 a year in economic spin-off from what we create in the middle of Lambton County. We welcome over 40,000 people, over 8 different shows and over 140 performances. These 40,000 people, 68% of those people are from outside of Lambton County. 24% of them are from Lambton County, but not Petrolia. 8% of our audience is from Petrolia. So what we've seen because of this massive amount of people coming from outside of our county is a 12% increase in overnight stays in Lambton County. Our customer service is something that we pride ourselves in. We welcome people. We see them out. We greet them after the show as our performers come down from the stage. They speak to people. This has been the backbone and a very strong piece of what we believe is the fabric of the Victoria Playhouse Petrolia. So when I touch on customer service, that's when I'm going to turn to my colleague, Co-Artistic Director David Rogers, and let him talk to you for a few minutes. Got it?
Oh, yes.
You got it.
Good. Well done, Laurissa. Thank heaven for people like Laurissa. She talks about the numbers and the statistics. I'm the artistic director of the Victoria Playhouse, so thank you, Your Worship, and Council, and ladies and gentlemen, for hearing us out. I got to Petrolia 9 years ago. I'm a big city boy. I worked at the Stratford Festival, Shaw Festivals, shows like Phantom, whatever, for many years in Toronto. Decided to come to Petrolia because the opportunity came about for us to take over the Victoria Playhouse. A beautiful, beautiful theater. We thought maybe we'd stay a couple of years, see what happens, see what we could do to the theater to revive it a little bit. It was doing well, but our mandate was customer service. And you think it's, you know, put on the best shows we can and everything, which we do, and people love coming to the shows, but they love coming to the Victoria Playhouse and Lambton County. And that's what we fell in love with too. And 9 years later, we are still here, the co-artistic directors. I have a house in Petrolia, and we just love it, and we love the theater. And that said, we drew 40,000 people now every summer, and it's overwhelming. This little gem of a theater in Lambton County has become a tourist attraction. I like to think I have a small part in that because of the shows that I help present. Laurissa has a huge part of it, but most of all, Lambton County has a huge part of it to make our little Victoria Playhouse the cultural hub of Lambton County, because as Laurissa said, we are the only professional theater, which means we bring in professional actors. That is their life. It is my life. Theater is my life. It may not be everybody's thing, theater, of course, I understand that, but it is considered a cultural hub to have something like that in your county. So congratulations to everyone, to Lambton County for having that. And I'm so in love with the theater. The audience is in love with the theater. They love coming to the Victoria Playhouse. They love coming to our little gem of a theater. But don't let it fool you, because it's a beautiful place, but it needs some work. And that's what we always tell people. That's our biggest thing, is like, how did you like the show? Oh, we love the show. We love coming here. I wish there were washrooms in the main floor. I wish I could get to the balcony. I can't. And it's this something that disheartens us every day with our audience, because there's nothing we can do about it. We do our best for customer service. We do our best putting on the best shows we can. But our poor audience, our 40,000 people that come through the doors and always say, where's the washroom? And we're always disheartened to say, you have to go to the basement. And it's very old. It's not accessible. We need accessibility to become what we want to become, which is the greatest destination in Ontario, in Southern Ontario, the theater. We're up there with Drayton now. We're up there with the Shaw Festival. And it reminds me of Drayton, which I've worked at several years, and I'm good friends with the artistic director there. They started at a town hall 30 years ago. And it wasn't until they got funding for their elevator, which brought their customers up to the main floor, and that they started becoming more successful and hugely successful and they are now the second largest theater company in Canada. So that's Drayton's experience, and that's what we want to become. At first, when we got here, let's just keep theater going and whatever, but now it's overwhelming to all of us. And every time I go into the lobby and I see the crowds, and they're wanting to be there, they're wanting to come, but they're saying, can we please, when are you getting the washrooms? We still have to go down to the basement. I don't know if you've been to the Victoria Playhouse, but once you get in, you have to go downstairs to the basement, and then you have to go up to the lobby, and then yet another floor to go to the main floor, and yet another floor to go to the balcony. So to come from the balcony or even the main floor, it's usually a 15-minute trip down. And a lot of our customers are elderly, and it's their life to go to the theater. We get so many, we can't wait to come back to your shows. But I wish this, and they will still come, but it's all about customer service, and that's an accessibility. And in this day and age, of course, accessibility is huge, and we don't have it at the Playhouse. And, I could go on about how great our shows are, and I think that's a given because we've gotten this many people. But I think aside from the show, they love the experience. They love the experience of coming to the Victoria Playhouse in Lambton County. And they want to keep coming, and they want customer service. They want accessibility. So I have, the story that I tell the cast sometimes, because it's hard to get up there for 30 shows, and do the same show over and have enough energy. And why are we doing this? And I always tell the story of the sweet lady who came to the Victoria Playhouse and didn't realize she was in the balcony and had to make it up those stairs. I said, well, you can take the elevator to the first floor, but then you still have to walk through the house and upstairs. Well, what if I have to go to the washroom? I said, well, unfortunately, you have to come all the way back down to the basement, which would have taken her 15 minutes. So I walked her up the stairs, and I tell the cast this story, that she took I walked with her 15 minutes every stair, and then she had to stop and take a breath. And she was determined to get up to the balcony to see what she called her favorite place of the year, her favorite shows to see. But she didn't realize she was up there. So it took her it was like climbing a mountain to her. And that's what I tell everyone. It's like, do the best show you can, because these people climbed a mountain to get up there. So that's where I come in. It's just, even though I'm just in charge of what you see on the stage, we are in charge of people's comfort and accessibility to what we want to be, and is becoming the theater hub of Lambton County. It's where people gather. 40,000 people gather and come to the restaurants and come. But some of them aren't coming because, I'm sorry, I can't, because I can't make it down to the bathroom on time. And so anyway, that's, I thank you. I thank you for your consideration and being here. And please come to the Victoria Playhouse and, check out. But don't drink too many liquids before you come, because it's a long trip to the bathroom. So.
And on that note, I'm going to talk about a few more numbers.
Sure,
okay?
Of course.
So we have applied for an Investing in Canadian Infrastructure grant. It is a $9.2 million request for a huge project. And should we be successful, that would see only 27% required from other funding. We're asking you to be 10.8% of that part of our funding. The town of Petrolia is committing to 10.8% of that required 27%, and the Victoria Playhouse is committing to fundraise the rest. Should the grant request not proceed, we do have a $3 million plan that speaks to just the accessibility of the elevator and the washrooms, as Mr. Rogers has spoke about today, where the town is committed to $1 million. The Victoria Playhouse is committed to raising $1 million, and we're asking you to be the other 33% of this huge success story. Help the 85% of our patrons with walking aids enjoy theater. Help them maybe experience theater for the only time they'll have the opportunity, and to experience a social opportunity in our community and in our county and in our province, really. So we're asking you to show your support, to hear us when we welcome 40,000 people, and to continue helping us by being a big part of that welcome. Is there anything else?
No, I took too much of your time. Thank you, Laurissa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you for your presentation. I see Councillor Loosley has a hand up.
I do, thank you, Mr. Warren. I just want to give thanks to Mr. Rogers and Mrs. Ellsworth for coming to this presentation and to basically state how important this project is to the county councilors, to the county manager.
Okay, thank you. This will be brought forward to the budget deliberations. Councillor Stark?
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very insightful. You mentioned the Drayton Theatre in your presentation, and you also indicated that they had an expansion project. How was it funded? And the second part of the question is, the Capitol Theatre in Sarnia is currently undergoing a capital improvement, and how is that being funded, if you know?
I can't speak to the Imperial Theatre specifically. I do know that they're also doing some fundraising projects, but I can't identify specific streams. As far as Drayton, have you spoken with them recently, or?
I have not. I can certainly get you that
Get you that
information on how they were funded, because it is a good question, and I know that they get a lot of funding, government funding, town funding, and sponsorships as we do. But I can certainly get you that information. I know that the town of Drayton has always been quite involved with the theatre there, but we can get you that information.
We can certainly forward it.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us. Have a good meeting.
All of these grant requests will be brought back at our budget deliberations for further questions. Our next presentation is Mr. Glen Starkey from the Kiwanis Club of Forest, speaking to the County Council regarding a grant request. Welcome, Glen. Mr. Starkey. Maybe. The button in the middle of the mic there, and you'll be good to go. And you're welcome to sit or stand.
Well, I'd like to thank the council and for having me here today and spending a little bit of time talking about the Kineto Theatre. I must say that the Victoria Playhouse is a hard act to follow, but I will do my best. We have a number of our volunteers today, and I'll just briefly go over some of the things that we do on an annual basis in the town of Forest. You know, in January we started out with a pork roast that we presented. February is we donate money to the Ringette organization. March we do a pancake breakfast. April brings us to a family kite day. May we have a film and food festival. June we do a bicycle rodeo and also a strawberry social. In July, we do the Kiwanis fireworks display, and it's one of the best in Lambton County. August is we do a White Park and a number of other things. September, we help the fair board put on the fall fair. October is curling club kids. We help them out. November, we do a Santa Claus parade. December, we're exhausted, but we still help the minor hockey. So it's an annual thing, and some of the people would say that for a small town club, we're maybe punching above our weight. But anyways, that's not why I'm here. What I'm here to talk about is the Kineto Theatre, and it is something that we work at 5 to 6 days a week, 52 weeks a year. So it's something that we do on top of everything else that we do. The Kineto Theatre, and I'll go through some of these fairly quickly, has been in operation since 1917. It was originally ran out of an old, well, it was a town hall actually, is where we started, the theatre started by the Rumford family. and has been in operation ever since. There's a couple of pictures there, and I'll just refer to the center one, 1940, and just keep that picture in mind. That's was several pictures of the theater through the years. It started out as a mercantile back in the 1800s, and has since 1917 has been a movie theater. It's been that ever since, and it's one of the longest running continuously operating movie theaters in Canada as well as the world, so we're quite proud of that fact. In 1977, the Kiwanis Club purchased the building because the owners of the theater was deciding that it was time to give it up. And if you look at the county, back in the 40s and 50s, when that picture was taken, there was movie theaters in all the small towns. Petrolia had one, Watford had one, Forest had one. There was one in Glencoe, and I don't know if any of you ever go through Glencoe, but if you do, you'll see on an old building the skeleton of a movie sign that says Fox, and that is still hanging there, and it's rather sad. The difference between those towns and Forest was that you had an interested organization in keeping it going. The Kiwanis Club wanted something for the kids in town to do between at least one night a week without getting in trouble. So they said, well, let's buy the theater, at least that'll give them something to do. And that was over 40 years ago, and we're still doing the same thing. Over the years, the Kiwanis Club has put in a lot of capital improvements, up to $300,000. In 1980, we renovated the lobby, and then we put in new seating, new equipment, until 2012, when the industry decided that we were going to change formats, and we went from film to digital. And that was a point where our club was at a crossroads. Would we invest the $100,000 that was needed to update the equipment, or would we close? It was really that simple. Well, we went to the community, and the community said, well, we need the theater. I mean, that's sort of part of the backbone of our community. So we went out and we fundraised the $100,000 in 6 months, which many of our members thought would never happen. And we said, yes, we can do this. This is some of the renovations that took place, and you can see these old newspaper clippings of what we were working on. But every person in those pictures was a Kiwanis member, working hard to make the theater viable again. This was, we call it the digs. When we bought the theater, it had no basement. So the members decided that we needed some more space. So we got picks and shovels, and we went down into the underneath and dug out a space for the community to use as well. Since then, since 2012, when we went digital, we took the equipment that had been in use for films, and we created a small museum upstairs of the historic equipment from all the way back to 1917 with some of the old lamp houses. This is some of the more recent upgrades. One of the things that I mentioned before about the Kiwanis Club being put out in the community, we draw that into the theater as well, and we make the theater part of the community. We have a number of different events that take place. We have Santa Claus at a Santa Claus break comes back to the theater and gives a treat to the kids. We have concerts. We have art shows. We're just booking a native dancer group out of Edmonton again this year to come and do a presentation next month. So those things are always going on. We have film festivals. One of the things that we do that is good for the community is we hire kids, and we have at least a dozen all the time that start at 14. They get their first job, they make a little money, they learn stuff, they learn how to work with the community. So that's another thing that we are able to do for the community. The project that we are starting now, maybe in the city and maybe places like Petrolia, seems pretty small, but it's a $1 million project. And what it's doing is, and you heard this in the last speaker, our washrooms are downstairs in the basement. So there's an accessibility issue. What we're going to do is we're moving those upstairs. We're moving the box office and the concession stand over into a building we purchased next door. And we're going to be able to add additional seating for handicap seating. So that will add more space for groups that we have come on a regular basis that need that space. Right now, sometimes when we have groups come in, they have to sit in the lobby because there's not enough space for all the wheelchairs. So this will enable them to be able to do that. We're also renovating the lower level and putting in better kitchen facilities so that we can run things like a dinner and movie. We also work with the Optimists on a regular basis on a thing called Camp Foodie, where they come and they learn how to cook. So we might be able to use that and tie it in with some film experience as well. So those are different things that we're looking at. As I've said, this is an opportunity to improve our safety, our accessibility, as well as our tourism. Right now, we have groups come in from far and wide for our film festivals. In the summertime, the tourism, we're in a tourist area, so we have a lot more people coming in to see films on a rainy night or any other time like that. So the importance of this is not lost on us. This is a picture of the it's going to be a combined building now. We're removing the overhang from the existing building. We're going to extend the marquee all the way across and have a larger Kineto sign up there. It's going to be quite dramatic when it's finished. It's going to change the landscape of the town. And so, as I say, we're looking at $1.1 million project, which for a group of volunteers is almost overwhelming. But we've already raised $625,000 since we started. So that's great, but we've got all the low-hanging fruit. We've asked our friends, we've asked our neighbors for donations, we've asked the service clubs, and be it Lions, Optimists, Rotarians, Legion members, the Oddfellows, they've all come, they've all given us money. And this is people who are also volunteering their time. So it's really very good for us to see that happening. The one thing I'm concerned about, and not concerned, but we want to get past the fundraising part and get back to what we do, which is give back to the community. And that is what we do best, and that's what we were asking you for some funding to help us get there. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions? Again, this will be brought to our budget meeting for consideration. The grant request is there. Seeing none?
Okay.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to the Kiwanis for what they do in their community. Our next presentation is Mr. Mike Lepane, Blue Water Health with Ms. Kathy Alexander. If you want to come forward with your presentation. Welcome.
I'm actually going to sit, or I'd never make it to the microphone. So. Thank you for having me here today. First, I'd like to begin by also introducing two of my colleagues. Kathy Alexander is the Executive Director of the Blue Water Health Foundation, and Mark Brait is the Treasurer of the CEH Foundation. And it's really critical because, as we'll be talking about, the amount of community fundraising required to keep an acute care hospital up to date is quite vast, and we get a lot of support from our foundations. I'd also be remiss in not acknowledging all our board members and volunteers who made the effort to be here today, so thank you for coming here and showing your support. Thanks. So a little bit of history, funding, and investment. So acute care hospitals, we get a large operating grant every year from the Ministry of Health, and that provides us with our operational dollars. When a hospital needs to invest in capital, it's a completely different process. So in a typical hospital redevelopment, it's quite lengthy. I just read recently that in China they built a hospital in 4 days. In Ontario it takes about 4 decades, so it's a long process. But when you get to the end and it's funded, it's 90%, the capital infrastructure is 90% funded by the ministry, 10% by the community. However, the community is also expected to furnish and provide all the equipment in the building, which can be up to another 30%. So when you look back at the history, we've always enjoyed strong support from the county. When we go back to the major redevelopment that we saw in Sarnia, it's now been 10 years since that redevelopment was finished. That was a massive project, over a $300 million project, and we needed about $45 million from the community to support that project. At the time, the county very generously provided $15 million of that over a 10-year period. It has been 10 years since that project, and much of the infrastructure around much of the equipment, there was over $30 million in equipment bought for that project, just medical equipment. A lot of that equipment is end of life, and we've been slowly replenishing it as we move on. So we're at a point now that we need to turn our sights at how to, services have changed over those 10 years, so we need to turn our sights to where are the pressures, what are patients experiencing when they come to the hospital, and how can we further enhance the building infrastructure. The beautiful building we have in Sarnia has been a great lure for recruitment. When we bring many specialists come and visit Sarnia, they're very impressed with the state of our infrastructure, the beauty of the building. But in Petrolia, not so much. So I'll maybe move through the 3 projects we want to discuss this morning. So the first project is a cancer care program redevelopment. We have a great oncology space, and when it was put in, it was based on the volumes we were seeing in the 10 years prior to that. Sadly, we see a higher incidence of cancer in the community, and there's a lot of pressure on our cancer program. And the second floor, where we house our chemo unit, is grossly undersized. For any of you that have experienced that, you'll know that the waiting room doesn't accommodate the number of people there. There needs to be sort of a redevelopment and just a better flow to make it easier for our patients who are suffering from cancer. Furthermore, we've been able to recruit a second medical oncologist, interestingly, someone who was born and raised in Plimpton, Wyoming. And that has caused a further increase in volumes in the cancer clinic. So between that and additional equipment needed, particularly in the lab to support the cancer program, that's the first project that we are looking to reinvest in the hospital. The next project is at the Petrolia site. And many of you, I know, are very familiar with the Petrolia site. It's been there for over 100 years. There's a lot of pride in that community, and it too has evolved over time. The real thrust of the first phase of the redevelopment out there is really about shoring up the infrastructure and dealing with the emergency department. That emergency department was constructed over 40 years ago, and at the time, they saw about 7,000 emergency department visits. Last year, we did over 21,000 visits, so it is grossly undersized. It is not state-of-the-art. Furthermore, the acute care rooms are not up to standard in terms of accessibility, washrooms, et cetera. So the main thrust of phase one of the CEH redevelopment will be around just ensuring that the infrastructure, the emergency department are supportive of what's actually currently happening today. The peripheral benefit is that, again, having a strong hospital supporting the family health team that's there also provides a great platform for recruiting additional physicians. And as every community in Ontario knows, it's very difficult to recruit physicians, so you have to be able to always put your best foot forward. The last project we'll talk about this morning is the Residential Withdrawal Management Center. I know it's been referenced at this committee before. I probably don't have to tell anyone in this room about the dire need that we have. Addictions is a serious problem. A residential withdrawal management site does provide great access on the continuum of care treatment that addicts require. And it has been on the books at the ministry for quite some time, and I know we will undoubtedly get questions about the timing of it. And we can only control so much on the timing of these projects when you're requiring so much capital from the ministry. But we're very hopeful that both this project and the Petrolia project have been in gestation at the ministry for quite some time, and we feel confident that we should be seeing some movement on them over the next couple of years. So the funding request we have before you today is it's a 10-year request. What we're providing is, given the magnitude and scope of these projects, I maybe should add in that in addition to these projects, we spend about $6 to $8 million a year just replenishing medical equipment. Most of that is raised through donations through our two foundations that are here today. So on top of that $6 to $8 million per year, we are requesting a grant of about $10 million over a 10-year period. We believe that the long-term benefits are quite significant for all three of these projects. These projects touch virtually every patient that comes to Blue Water Health. And our statistics will show, I was looking at them again, reviewing them yesterday, of all our visits, interactions, inpatient stays, over 90%, actually close to 95% of those patients have a residence code in Lambton County. So it does have a significant impact for everyone that resides in the county. So we are grateful for you giving us the time today, and we're more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Councillor Boucher?
Gordon, I just feel that amount is too large. Is there a possibility that at one time that you might cut it down, or if the government come through, or I mean, I just feel that that's more than we can afford right now. It's my personal feeling.
Excuse me. We're asking for it over a 10-year period. We know each of those projects will require several $1 million of community support. Fundraising is difficult. We aren't the only people fundraising in the community, but we do believe that all of these services are vital for the health of our community.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. I see no further questions. Again, this will be brought to our budget deliberations.
Thank you for the time today.
Sorry? Okay. Yep. Thank you for that. We Should have a motion to refer these 4 grant requests to our budget deliberations. Councillor Lucy and Councillor Cook. Any questions? All in favor of that? That is carried. Thank you. And thanks to all our delegations, our grant requests. We now go on to updates and delegations. So we have Mr. Lyle Johnson and Rick Perdue representing the Industrial Alliance, and Mr. Gray representing Blue Water Power with an update on the oversized load corridor.
Warden and councillors, thanks for the opportunity for the update. We'll try and get through this as quickly as possible to make sure that everyone knows where we are and what's going on. So Rick sends his excuses, I guess. He's got a new business partner coming in, or a new client coming in early this morning, so he had to step out. So Brad has volunteered to help me today. So Rick's part of the presentation was just a regrounding of the oversized load corridor, and to emphasize that this is a positive impact on the community. The basis of the project is to sustain the mechanical infrastructure base of the community and the industrial base of the community and the manufacturers and fabricators in the region. So, and the spin-off that they contribute as they move forward. As the original project stated, they're estimating about $9.5 million on an annual basis of additional income or, sales if they can maintain this corridor and be competitive on a national and international global basis. I think that's the local impact. Just to refresh folks on the scale of the project again, starting at Exmo Street, Murphy Road, Confed, Blackwell, Kimbleside Road, and Petrolia Line. Phase 1 of the construction, very happy with the progress to date. There we are. Focused predominantly in the county section, and the county section basically from Plank Road down Kimball to Petrolia Line and Petrolia Line to Polymore is now complete. Basically from a utilities perspective, that is a clear and open pathway for any major load going down that area. And I think we've had somewhere between 10 and 15 loads traveled down that corridor in the last 12 months. We've completed a lot of engineering around the utilities section to better define the cost, and we've got some final engineering to do. The dock RFP closed last week. We have a recommendation going to City Council on Monday to move forward with that. So just a recap on the allocation of the funding, the original project was estimated at $12 million, and the initial funding was set out between the city, the county, the township, and Sarnia-Lambton Industrial Alliance. And to help support that, we were successful in gaining the $6 million from the National Trade Corridor Fund. We had an individual grant from the Sestar College in the tune of $4 million towards the dock, with naming rights going to Sestar College. We're in the process with the Southwest Ontario Development Fund for a grant of up to $1.5 million. We were successful in the initial screening process. We're in the final process of that now. All indications are that it looks favorable. We have a good project and meeting the requirements for that fund. That would bring an additional $300,000 to the county and $1.2 to the city. So today, we've got secured fund to date of $60 million and 17.5 with the Southwest Ontario Development Fund. Project estimate, as I'd indicated, had a range of plus or minus 20% at $12 million. Our revised estimate is $16.95 with a plus or minus 10%. So we cleaned up the major portion of the estimate, and the primary elements of that were the utilities section and the dock section. The city portion increased $3.7 million. The county portion increased 1.2, and again, major variances. We saw a major increase in cost in Hydro 1 costs within the county and the city. These variants are both total project. Blue Water Power in the city, about close to $2 million. Blue Water Powder in the county, $630,000. City Road has grown up $720,000, and the dock, based on what we've seen in infrastructure cost and capital cost and construction costs, we've increased that estimate by $1 million just to provide additional contingency fund, basically. Major contributing factors, probably three major ones. The level of engineering, there was only $90,000 worth of engineering spent to define a $12 million project, and by all industry standards, that's completely or considerably too low. To fund a project, we are now probably 30% complete on the engineering, with a comfort level in, with the exception of the dock, a good degree of comfort in where we are cost-wise. A major change in the electrical code required that we, instead of utilizing existing infrastructure, we ended up replacing, I think, 140 some odd poles throughout the city and the county that were not included in the budget. The existing Exmo Street, which is the major bottleneck around out through the city, there's a significant amount of infrastructure there that's resulting in us to basically go around it, and has increased our construction cost. The, oops, wrong one. There, thanks, Brad. Yep. Some of the other ones, again, we've seen the use of hydrovac versus typical conventional construction periods. On the road, based on what the city have seen and updated estimating, there's about $700,000 of additional work for the resurfacing of Blackwell Road between Confed and Churchill Line. And I had indicated already the dock, which is the largest contributing factor, or largest individual item, about $6.5 million. We've completed the selection of the dock consultant, and plan to work with them between now and the end of the year to finalize or bring forward the cost of that dock and get it better defined. Forward planning, we're moving forward with Blue Water Power. Brad's been working with us to define over the next 2 years the opening up basically Exmouth to Plank Road with the infrastructure for Blue Water Power. Phase 2 of the project will start in May 2020 with the cleaning the remainder of the Plank Road, Exmouth Street area up. And then the award of the dock engineering, finalize the dock layout, completion of the construction estimate of the dock, and start the environmental process. So very happy with what we saw from quotes that came in for the dock. Certainly gives me a better comfort level that we have a better definition of where we are with that dock now, just simply based on the engineering costs. So our request basically is to have the council support for continuation with the available funds, and to work until we get the final work around the dock completed. So,
Okay.
any questions?
Thank you for your presentation and update. Any questions from members of council? Councillor Bird.
But I had a specific question for him, but maybe Lyle, you could answer, or Brad maybe. It was about the Sarnia-Lambton Industrial Alliance. I know that they have about 30 or more member companies in this coalition. Are they, when it comes to the financial side, are they totally member-driven, or is there any other body that contributes to their financials?
I'll try to answer that question. All of the contractors along the corridor have contributed. Polymore, for example, there's two major contractors had a significant contribution to that section. The contractors along Plank Road have contributed to some of their rework of their infrastructure, and same as McGregor. So they've contributed as a business and as an industrial alliance. So they, in the initial investigation of the project, all of the contractors were solicited, and they came up with $10,000 out of basically SLEA's operating budget is $30,000 a year, so they contributed 30% of their annual budget to the project in a whole. So hopefully, does that help? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Boucher?
I'm going to make the same comment I made at the council meeting, that I hope you'll not come back to us for any more money. Is that possible? And if you think you need more money, I would like to see you trim your budget down a little bit, because money doesn't grow on trees, and that's a lot of money you're asking.
Can you make up?
I'll give you a similar answer. The biggest outstanding item that we have that's not defined to the level where I have comfort level in it right now is the dock. We have now selected or in the process of selecting the dock engineering contractor that will work with us to get to a point where I can come back and comfortably say we can complete this within the number that I've given you. But until we finalize that, that is a variable cost that I can't control at this moment. We've got the best costs we have with the information we have available. But until we get in the environmental process, do the soil investigation, geotechnical studies, that dock is still a variable. The Blue Water Power costs, the road costs that we have on the estimate, I'm very comfortable with, that we can complete it within that number. But until we define the dock, I can't put a final nail in that estimate.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that update on the presentation, and I don't believe there's any further requests at this time. So thank you for that. Item B, we have Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership. I see Alex Palamaka and Stephen Thompson. Morning. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, members of council, staff, and members in the audience. My name is Alex Palamaka, Senior VP, General Counsel with Blue Water Power, volunteer, member of the Board of Directors for the Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership, currently sitting as chair. This is my last presentation to County Council as chair. I'm sure that will make you sad. So sitting in the audience is my vice chair, Catherine Walker, who will be making this presentation next year, so she thought she would come along for the ride. With me is Stephen Thompson, the CEO of Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership, and our goal is to be brief.
That would be good. Good way to finish up your term, Mr. Chair.
First slide. As you all know, Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership is a county-funded agency responsible for overall economic development in Lambton County. Want to really emphasize the next point, which is that we are soon to be an internationally accredited economic development agency. And you may think, big deal. Why isn't every economic development agency accredited? And the answer is that we are, in fact, the 4th accredited economic development agency in Canada. So this is a significant achievement. It was a 2-day audit undertaken by Stephen and his staff. 2 volunteers from the International Economic Development Council came, scrutinized our activities, our partnerships, our staff, everything that, our policies, and really worked closely with our staff. So it's a great tribute to Stephen and his team that we have been accredited as an economic development agency. And that press release is being issued today. So this is now official word.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing is this is a big deal from 2 perspectives. One, with site selectors, this gives us increased credibility internationally. We are competing with hundreds of border communities for jobs, and having this accreditation gives us tremendous credibility when we're dealing with these professional site selector groups. Second thing is it helps us to attract and retain our staff. With this accreditation, it gives us credibility, and it shows that people want to work with Stephen Thompson. They want to work with the Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership. They want to be part of what we are doing. So this is a big deal and something that we're able to celebrate finally today. So what is economic development? We want to talk about sort of the details and then get to the high level right at the end of the presentation. And the first thing that economic development is that we are the first point of contact for investors looking to locate in Lambton County. At any given time, we are dealing with 88 leads and business cases that we are trying to help make their decisions about where they want to locate. Some of these you will never hear about because they don't happen. Some of these are always just waiting to be announced. And that's what we do each and every day, is work with these companies looking to locate in Lambton County. We also actively reach out to investors and influencers, and I gave you 3 examples on this slide. And the first one is the K-Show in Europe, which is a circular economy, a plastics conference, and we attended that conference. And I want to make one thing clear, is that our decision to go to that conference was based on a consultant's advice. We undertook a foreign direct investment strategy that recommended that would be an ideal target audience for Lambton County. We didn't also just show up and set up a booth at this conference. We hired a consultant who had pre-arranged, pre-qualified meetings with people actively looking at investments in North America. And out of that, we had 88 meetings, and we have 27 leads that we continue to follow up with. Another conference that I want to highlight is the World Congress on Bio and Ag Tech, conference that Stephen attended in Iowa, the heartland of North America, I guess you would say. And out of that, we had 30 meetings, and we continue to work with 23 leads. So these are just good examples of everyday activities we undertake to attract investment to Lambton County. Another good example is new resident attraction. We have we've arranged at least 3 bus tours in the last year of both entrepreneurs and people looking to locate out of the GTA. And we work with the Peel Region Newcomers Association out of Peel Region, and they are a federally funded agency that looks to locate people in rural Ontario. So it's a great partnership. It works well. And then we also work hard to maintain the progress that we have already made. We know what happened with BioAmber in the summer of 2018, and we are proud to say that we worked with LCY to ensure that that investment continued here in Lambton County. For almost everything else that SLEP does, we are a partner in our community. So we work with municipalities. We work regularly with Lambton College and Western Research Park. We have a collaboration with libraries, the county libraries for the entrepreneurship programs, and we work with partners each and every day. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen, who will get into a little bit more detail.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on some of our activities. Alex highlighted a number of our investment attraction activities. However, investment attraction is just a piece of what we do. Our primary focus is supporting existing businesses. We also work on the investment attraction piece, which is mentioned on this slide. We work with entrepreneurs and small businesses. In fact, we worked with over 500 entrepreneurs and hosted over 12 courses last year, workshops and seminars to promote entrepreneurial spirit and entrepreneurial activities across our area. We also work in the area of attracting workers and entrepreneurs to support population growth. And although this presentation does not go into a whole lot of detail on that, that was strategically done because for agenda items later, I'll be back up here with the local immigration partnership to speak to some of those items. All that rolls up into the strategic plan that was just adopted several years ago, which focuses on people, progress, perception, place, and participation, which is really the importance of collaboration. There's a lot on this slide. Don't worry, I'm not going to read every bullet, but I did want to highlight that we made a very strong commitment to work with existing businesses to help them be as strong as possible. And in 2019, we were able to surpass our targets due to funding we were able to bring in from an upper level of government that helped us assist 256 businesses. Our annual target was around 130. So thanks to upper levels of government, we were able to help even more businesses. We actively partner with the Ontario Food Cluster to generate leads on new investments, value-added agriculture that we can attract to our area. And another project that was new for the past 12 months was conducting consultations with residents right across Lambton County to find out what they can't buy locally but would like to buy locally. We see that as a very strategic way to identify business opportunities for entrepreneurs or to attract businesses to our area. A couple others that I'll highlight before I move on in the interest of time. We were a successful recipient, thanks to the Ontario Business Improvement Area Association, on conducting a digital Main Street project, which was going out to help existing businesses with their online digital presence. And we conducted those with Main Street independent businesses right across Lambton County. And that was a project that actually continues until the end of this month. So if there are businesses out there that are looking for assistance with their online presence, we can send someone out that would be very happy to provide guidance and help a business with social media, with their website, with an online shopping cart, those sorts of things. Also pleased to announce that we'll be building on the ICF, Intelligent Community Initiative, by developing a series of video testimonials. We're planning to hire a local company to assist us with doing 10 testimonials on why Sarnia-Lambton is an innovative place for business, why businesses are successful here. And we think that narrative will be very successful in educating our residents as well as educating others outside our area of some of the true successes that are going on here. Very, very briefly, Alex did mention that we have an investment strategy. And the investment strategy, which focuses on employment and business attraction, is mentioned on this slide. We were successful in leveraging our base dollars in 2018 with some federal government dollars to develop a comprehensive strategy. It's a comprehensive strategy. I think it's 120 or 130 pages in total, and it hones us in on certain key sectors. And we'll be conducting meetings at 20 key industry events in 2020, specific to those sectors, as well as to support existing sectors. Most of our activities are focused on one-on-one meetings and business cases, but we do plan to do, as mentioned in the last bullet, a few targeted marketing initiatives as well.
With that, I just want to remind council that we published our strategic plan in 2018. I would encourage you to have a read. It's a comprehensive document that involved community-wide consultations. And then I just want to, next slide will just remind you of the individual staff that work with the Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership and work with each of the communities outlined on this slide. And with that, we finish exactly on time.
Look at that. You get a gold star for that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Any questions, Councillor Bird?
Thank you, Warden Weber. Thanks for your presentation. Very interesting. I notice you have quite extensive bullet points for all your activities. And I know that you're only one part in a whole process of things, but do you have a slide or can you tell us actual results, like what your part has played in something coming to fruition?
That's right. I will speak to that briefly first, and then I'll let Stephen add some more details. By you mean job attraction, I'm assuming is. Okay, anything at all. Well, I would point to the ICF recognition that we achieved, and that's a neat story. At the time that that initiative was underway, we lost a staff member to the private sector, and the community really came together. The warden, Mr. Van Horn, Robert Wilkes, Chris Gould from our organization, Catherine Albion from Western Research Park, Lambton College, many others came together to make that initiative happen, and it achieved the recognition as top 7 intelligent community in the world, and it's something that now we're actively working to promote. On the first slide, we talked about BioAmber as well, and that's a project that we played a key role. We were one of the many people that played a key role in attracting BioAmber to our community. But I would say Stephen and his team played an even more key role in the transition from the previous ownership to LCY. LCY was a company that we had been dealing with for years. It was somebody that we were very familiar with. And I think we can take significant amount of credit for making that transition happen. Stephen, do you have anything you want to add?
I would just add that economic development truly is a team sport. So we work very closely with the municipalities. We conducted a new initiative with the planning department at both the city as well as the county in 2019. Most of what we do is in collaboration with others. Many times municipalities take tremendous pride in the investments that have come to their municipality. They're part of the ribbon cutting, those sorts of activities. So while we play a part, while we do largely a behind-the-scenes part to work with confidential business cases and to assist existing businesses, as well as businesses that are considering moving to our area, that doesn't diminish the role that we play, even if we aren't the ones that are cutting the ribbon.
Okay, thank you. Follow-up.
Thank you, Warden Weber. No, I realise that SLEP's part is collaborative, but I just think it would be really great if you included in any of your presentations all the actual results, even if you only had a small part in it, of all the things that have come to fruition because of your part that you played in that. So I think it's really great to be able to highlight that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Get your mic. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Stark?
Yes, thank you for your presentation and also the presentation that you made to the City of Sarnia on the 27th of January. During that discussion in January, you were asked a question relative to the unemployment statistics that were presented in a January 15th report to County Council. In that report, it indicated that the countywide jobless rate was in the neighborhood of 7%. I think 6.8% was the exact number as of November. That represented a 50% higher rate than the rest of the province. My question is there was a comment in that report that stated that historically Lambton County is always higher than the rest of the province. I was intrigued by that comment and wondered if that is the case, why is it the case?
Councillor Stark, I think I answered that question at City Council, so I will have Stephen, who's much more of an expert on these issues, to answer at this time.
I would, Warden, if I may, I guess I would share some information that we understand about how unemployment rates are calculated, and we've chatted with the provincial government as well as the Sarnia-Lambton Workforce Development Board that plays a key role in all workforce and labor force data. Is our understanding that the unemployment rate is calculated by Statistics Canada for the Southwest Ontario Economic Region, which is Windsor, Essex, Chatham, Kent, as well as Lambton. They combine it, they calculate it for a large area because of the sample size that they have. Based on our population, approximately 200 households are contacted by phone to find out who's working and who isn't working. So the sample size for Lambton County is quite limited. Therefore, we don't have a lot of detail in terms of what occupations might be looking for work at any given time. It is something that we have raised with the Ministry of Labor. Ministry of Labor does have the skills development portfolio as well, and we would like to see if there is a way to peel back additional layers to understand whether those jobs that are being reported happen to be within agriculture, happen to be within skilled trades. We just don't know based on the number that the numbers that Statistics Canada is able to release for us.
Follow-up, Councillor Stark?
Yes, thank you for that response. I understand basically that it's a very unscientific approach, but having said that, if we were to back out the Lambton County numbers, would it not, in fact, don't Lambton County numbers in fact aggravate the unemployment rate? So if we were to compare it just to Windsor, London as an example, in fact the numbers would be less favorable. Having said that, I mean, I recognize you can't really answer that question, but it's important to recognize that we are being compared to others. Now, my next question is relative to a request for proposal that the City of Sarnia put out or is about to put out on January the 27th. It's called a negotiated request for a proposal, and it deals with high-level economic development strategies. My question is, did you have a part in forming the document that I referred to?
Warden, through you. We have a number of interactions daily with the City of Sarnia, very positive interactions. We've been refreshed over the past year to see that Sarnia does have a full-time economic development officer position that we work very collaboratively with. There have been discussions over the past year with respect to where we can dovetail in terms of activities and where complementary activities can happen between the municipal level as well as the regional or county level that we operate in. While we didn't share a pen on that particular document, I have a fairly high level of confidence that those interactions would have helped to inform whatever the city may have put together with respect to that request for proposals.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Warden Weaver, members of County Council. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. Just, I know you guys look at the overall county picture, and when you're out doing your presentations, and we operate as municipalities usually within so many segmented silos, when it comes to infrastructure throughout. And I'm just wondering if there are a top couple of things that we need to look at in the future in order to put us in a better spot to attract businesses and industry. And I know from a high level it's internet and there's water and there's all these good things. But do you see specifically in certain locations what we're really lacking that we need to look collaboratively of a group and to move forward and to make it better and a much more attractive place to bring these businesses, individuals, and et cetera into the community, into the county as a whole.
Warden, through you, yes, the strategic plan that was just adopted a year and a half ago does speak to some priority areas and some priority activities. And we've also committed to a minimum of quarterly meetings with each and every municipality, assuming that the municipalities have the interest and capacity for those meetings, of course. We have identified certain things, such as availability of buildings, availability of land as key considerations. We've also heard about availability of certain talented occupations that are in extremely high demand. So we are working with the college and others around those occupations to better understand what those needs are, especially around IT and other technology and computer skills. So we do see it as availability of land, availability of buildings, availability of talent. We are seeing those all as key determining factors before or in conjunction with various cost factors as well, right? So we're seeing a number of variables, a number of factors, and we're finding that while there are some consistent themes right across the county, we're finding that each of the 11 municipalities also has slightly different circumstances, slightly different needs, and we're flexible and adaptable to be able to work within those and to support the municipal initiatives to put our collective best foot forward for business growth, whether it's existing businesses or new businesses.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that update. We'll receive that presentation.
Great. I just say thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this morning. We would encourage you to join us at our AGM, encourage you to sign up to receive our newsletter, and give us a call anytime. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, our next presentation, we have three more before I suggest we take a break. Mr. Mark Perrin, Executive Director for Tourism Sarnia-Lambton, an update regarding Sarnia-Lambton's activities and plans. Welcome, Mark. Push the button and you're good to go.
Thank you, Warden, members of council, and guests in attendance. My name is Mark Perrin. I'm the Executive Director for Tourism Sarnia-Lambton, and looking forward to give an update on 2019 as well as where we're heading in the future here for 2020. Overall, in 2019, we adopted a new 3-year strategy. That strategy came from our board of directors on a strategic plan that took place planning out 19 to 21. With that, we renewed our mission and vision statement, making the mission statement of Tourism Sarnia-Lambton is the destination marketing and development organization serving Lambton County tourism assets to enhance economic growth and prosperity. Our vision statement was also updated to read that Tourism Sarnia-Lambton is an industry leader supporting the vital contribution of the tourism industry to the local economies. TSL uses their expertise to encourage all levels of the government to improve tourism-related infrastructure, as well as TSL encourages and facilitates leading-edge marketing and product development to enhance the tourism industry. Overall, the tourism economic impact for Ontario is $34 billion. In our region alone, it's $1.4 billion. And these are based off the TRIM models that is provided by the Ontario government. In 2018, which is the last final numbers reported, it showed that in Sarnia-Lambton we had over $57 million in visitor spending. And already through their initial reports that we've done, adding in different events and using the TRIM model from the different attractions throughout the county, we show an increase for 2019 of about $63 million. Majority of this, or a big chunk, was because of the increase of having the Tall Ship Festival in 2019. That event we saw created over $2 million in visitor spending, and the economic spin-offs that occurred from that were estimated to be approximately $4 million in total. Overall, the 2019, we've renewed many partnerships that have created new projects, and we've worked together in the industry, getting Tourism Sarnia-Lambton back to our local businesses, getting them engaged with different grant requests, different workshops, different promotions and marketing materials to further have our region introduced into different marketplaces as far as Ontario going 300 kilometers plus as far as our travel guides brochure reach, as well as into the U.S. market as we expanded. Instead of just in Michigan, we included Ohio, and we look to again include Indiana and Illinois in the coming 2020 timeframe as well. Overall, for tourism and our economic impact, it's definitely one of the largest economic producers, and it's very important for our community prosperity. And we put together this chart just to indicate everything that a visitor means to this region and really drive home the importance of what tourism does overall for the economic benefits. It definitely is a driver for residential pride in the community. This pride can showcase and attract new people to see what's happening and give them a sense of what it would be like to be part of the community. Obviously, the economic impacts affects our bottom line. It helps create the tax dollars, helps create business vibrancy, and these visitors, it grows the economy overall. Repeat tourists, they help drive a potential workforce. We've been in a few different conversations now with the Sarnia Construction Association, and one of the things that we're finding is that many of the out-of-town workers that have been here are going to our local events and seeing the different things that are happening on the tourism grounds in Sarnia-Lambton, and it's making them want to become part of a community and purchase homes here and become permanent residents. So that's a great job from tourism, from the workforce, working together, and we've really renewed our relationship with SLEP and working together on that business attraction and resident attraction on how we create the tourism component to encourage people to drive home and stay in our local economy. For 2020, we have many things planned already. Tourism Sarnia-Lambton will be supporting over 70 events. We have multiple conferences. We have 50-plus motor coach tours. We have partnership workshops, trade shows. We're bringing tourism initiatives to the market, and we're promoting and attracting visitors to enhance a more vibrant Lambton County for all members of our Sarnia-Lambton communities to benefit from. One new program that I want to touch base on that has been really well perceived is our new Spark program that we've had many different partners on, including Southwestern Ontario. We also, Tourism Corporation, also SLEP. We had the Waterfront Regeneration Project, as well as Libro Credit Union. And we all came together to create a program that's been spread out around Ontario with the Tourism Innovation Lab. This is called the Spark program, and it's What's Your Tourism Idea? Within Tourism Sarnia-Lambton, we received 21 applicants for different businesses and different individuals presenting what their tourism idea could be for Sarnia-Lambton. And from this, we're going to be selecting 3 winners who will receive $3,000, but more importantly, private mentorship to assist their ideas in actually getting off the ground and growing our tourism industry. It's a program that we're very proud of. Our Tourism Sarnia-Lambton strategic plan also lays out priorities for 2019 to 2021. For 2020, developing workshops, continuing to collaborate with partnership organizations, updating our social media as we now have a new digital marketing director as part of our organization. This will also include the visual updates, the media marketing, tourism signage, and destination awareness branding, which are all part of our organizational priorities. Some of our 2020 partnerships that we're working on, and we work with these partnerships on all different kinds of levels. Some were members of their committees. Some are events that we work hard to bid on to actually land, and then work with municipalities to have them happen. As well, we engage to ensure they have sponsorship funding and that they're being adequately run to enhance our tourism image throughout the county. I won't read all of them, but there's an extensive list, and this is just a few. For 2020, two of the kind of highlighted events. One is we have the Grand Slam of Curling happening, which we've had the Sarnia Golf and Curling Club underwrite the event. We're working hard as one of their committee leaders in rounding up volunteers, as well as sponsorship and securing ticket sales, which are actually already half sold out for the event. The other major ones that will take place will also have the Sarnia Pickleball Championship happening this year. We're looking forward to that on Labor Day weekend, and we are excited to be helping with the sponsorship of that event as well as sitting on committees. The Moore Sports Complex Renewal has been a committee that we have joined recently, as well as we're members of the Grand Bend Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Sarnia Chamber of Commerce, where we're sitting with their board and helping engage further developments of working together in a positive relationship. For 2020, the other large item that we've worked on is strategic MAP priorities. Municipal accommodation tax, I was just here in the fall speaking with council, so we won't go too far into it. But we have developed a list of key priorities, which include supporting existing major local events to create a greater tourist draw, increase visitations to Sarnia-Lambton, fund bid requirements for major events without additional funding from municipalities, support product development and industry growth, become more competitive with other provincial and national cities in Canada, enhance Sarnia-Lambton's national and international profile. And for the sector of how we do that, it's through the 6 pillars of entertainment events, sporting events, leisure travel, cultural events, conventions and conferences, and product development and new businesses. In regards to MAT, we haven't received funds from that yet. We have had both Point Edward and Sarnia adopt the municipal accommodation tax. Point Edward began collecting in January, and Sarnia is on pace to begin collecting in March. We are committed to speaking with other municipalities in 2020 and hope to have all municipalities sign on by the end of the year into municipal accommodation tax program. That's everything. We're definitely in a great place right now for the tourism industry as it's fueling economic growth. We have lots of new restaurants, hotels, breweries, wineries, storefronts, and attractions. And the vibrancy is growing very strong throughout all of Sarnia-Lambton. I welcome any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Councillor Arnold.
Thank you very much, Warden Weber and members of County Council. Mr. Parent, thank you for your presentation this morning. Just had a question around the municipal accommodation tax. I've had a couple of folks contact me in regards to concerns around that and how much stays locally, how much goes to another organization, that kind of stuff. Could you explain that to me? Because our municipality has not voted on that yet. And I think it'd help us to understand exactly what stays locally and what doesn't.
Through you, Warden. Mayor Arnold, so actually with it, the 4% that is collected on the hotel tax, it all stays locally. How it's split is it actually is all remitted back to the municipality, and then it's split whatever the agreement is with the municipality. Typically, it's a 50-50 split, where then that revenue is earmarked for tourism. Sarnia-Lambton's 50% would be marketing and promotions for new objectives, which goes back to our basically 6 and 6 priorities. And then the other 2% is it's designated for tourism infrastructure improvements or infrastructure builds. So definitely from hearing different delegations speak on infrastructure for tourism, it's something that I believe strongly we can use these MAP funds throughout Lambton County to help with the infrastructure improvements needed for lots of our facilities in the county.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Broad.
Thank you, Warden Weaven. Mark, can you tell us what's the funds expected to generate for 2020 out of the MAT?
And your mic off.
For your ward. Yeah, we're still waiting to see the exact results. I mean, we have projections right now. The bylaw, I think, is being signed with the City of Sarnia relatively soon to hopefully have that March date, but it's not 100% official yet. But we do estimate from Point Edward that it could create around 600,000 total. So the split would be 50-50 with the village of Point Edward, so roughly 300,000. With the City of Sarnia, depending on when that signs and goes into place, estimate that probably we've missed a few big events like Silver Stick and other things that are very, very key. So probably estimate closer to 100,000, 150,000 split.
Thank you. Councillor Napper.
I guess the question's got to be asked, Mark. With this newfound revenue, this windfall got, is that going to mean that our county levy to you folks will remain at zero for the next 5 years then? Thanks.
For you, Warren. Yeah, so with the newfound revenue, it's defined as supplemental funding to the organization. So we don't see, with talking with our board, we don't see asking county to do any increases for the next 4 years. So I think remaining our budget the same as what it is, and then we can use this new revenue to enhance new projects and new marketing initiatives, and really just stay focused on new ideas and creations from those funds.
Okay. Thank you. Again, thank you, Mr. Perrin, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Your update. Item D, we have Deputy Mayor Judy Krall from Enniskillen to make a presentation regarding minimum distances for cannabis. Welcome. Push the little button there and you're ready to go.
Thank you for having me this morning on your meeting agenda. The purpose of my presentation is in the Township of Enniskillen, an existing greenhouse was converted from the production of peppers to cannabis. And like many new converted grow sites, we started to receive complaints regarding odor, lights, noise, and traffic. This is the background associated with our request to develop a minimum distance separation system for the siting of new cannabis facilities and outdoor growing. In light of the odor issues associated with cannabis facilities and outdoor growing, we believe that the siting of this crop should be subject to setbacks from sensitive land uses such as schools, residents, and parks. What is an appropriate setback distance? As this agricultural crop continues to exist, whether being grown in a greenhouse, industrial park, or open field, Care should be taken to respect other land uses. Municipalities are not currently equipped with the necessary information to establish setbacks for the outdoor growing of cannabis. While attending the Rural Ontario Municipal Conference in January in Toronto, members of Enniskillen Township Council met with the Provincial Agriculture Minister, Ernie Hardeman, to discuss establishing a minimum distance separation for cannabis growing operations. Minister Hardeman commented that it was not in his power to consider doing this. At the Cannabis Host Municipalities Network meeting that I attended following the Rural Ontario Municipal Conference, municipalities are struggling with establishing bylaws with regards to cannabis grow ops. Some of these bylaws are being challenged at LPAT. Communities where cannabis grow ops are located in the industrial zones appear to have no issues versus those that are located in agricultural zones where odor, light, noise are main concerns. In your council package today, I've included my letter to Health Canada containing the resolution to have a minimum distance separation policy established for the cannabis industry to ensure that people can still enjoy quality of life. I ask that Lambton County Council forward a similar letter of support to the Federal Minister of Health as well. At this time, I want to thank the municipalities that the Township of Enniskillen received support from for this resolution, and especially the Petrolia Town Council for requesting that the resolution be brought to County Council. And I'm going to add as a side note from the Cannabis Host Communities Network meeting that I attended. The committee originated as a result of the mayors of Carlington and Smith Falls, where there are cannabis grow ops located. One of the things that was brought up that's on the horizon next is when individuals get a script from the doctor stating what dosage of cannabis they need, that dosage translates into a certain number of cannabis plants. A single individual can grow up to 1,000 plants, and that single individual can also grow plants for other people with scripts, so up to a maximum of 4,000 plants, and whether you're aware of it or not, they're not required to tell municipalities where these are being grown at all, and it is becoming the next issue on municipalities' agendas in their communities. And I thank you very much for listening to me this morning.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I know we do have a resolution, I believe, from our committee reports supporting Enniskillen in this. So, seeing no questions, thank you very much. And our last presentation before we take a little break would be from the Ontario Provincial Police, Staff Sergeant Ryan Olmstead and Assistant Staff Sergeant Ross Stuart on our Lambton County Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan.
Thank you for having us. My name is Ryan Olmstead. I'm the Staff Sergeant and Operations Manager of the Ontario Provincial Police in Lambton County. To my right is Acting Staff Sergeant Ross Stuart. He's in charge of the support manager role at the Lambton County office. Thanks for having us. We're here to talk about the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. I'm sure every municipality is aware that they have to have a Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan by the end of this year, which goes into effect January 1st, 2021. So our hope with meeting with County Council today is that we could assist in developing one plan for all of Lambton County. To give a little background, the legislative requirements under the Police Services Act, again, as every municipality in Ontario is required to complete such a plan by the end of the year. If a municipality does not complete a community safety and well-being plan by the end of the year, the Ontario government will come in and complete that plan for the municipality and charge the cost of creating that plan back to the municipality. So of course, that's something we're hoping to assist in avoiding. First Nations communities are not legislated to complete such a plan, but are encouraged to be part of a plan. So with that being said, we've reached out to some of our community partners, being Sarnia Police, the City of Sarnia, Kettle and Stony Point, as well as Walpole Island First Nations, to hope to bring them in to be part of this planning process. Some of the mandated sections as far as the advisory committee that would make up the committee to establish such a plan are mandated as such as health, education, social services, members of municipal council, members of police services boards, police, and any other applicable agencies that you want to work with to create such a plan. Throughout the plan, the contents of the plan are to attempt to identify some of the priorities in every municipality. Where those priorities are mental health, addictions, housing and homelessness, that type of thing, is to gather the input and the analysis on what each municipality's priorities are, and then to identify the strategies to reduce those priorities. In speaking with some of our planning committee already, there's already some good work that's already been done. We don't need to necessarily reinvent the wheel. The drug and alcohol strategy has been completed. The housing and homelessness plan has been completed. So we can leverage some of that good information from those plans to create this community safety and well-being plan that hopefully can meet everyone's requirement under the Police Services Act. So the benefits of creating such a plan, especially a county-wide plan, it increases the communication between all our community partners, and improves the opportunities for healthy child development, allows communities to understand the priorities and how they can assist in meeting those priorities, and overall increases engagement across the county. So if everyone wants to look at the model here, the red circle in the middle is pretty much emergency services response, whether that's fire, police, ambulance. The whole idea is to shrink that red section and increase social development, increase the prevention, and increase risk intervention, so that the first stage when someone's in crisis is in emergency services. There's plans in place to assist them ahead of time. So that's the idea of the community safety and well-being plan. The final slide that we have, and short and sweet, we've talked to members of our planning committee now who have reached out to a consultant who the county has worked with in the past. The consultants provided us a very detailed quote on what it would cost the municipalities across Lambton County to create one plan. It's approximately a $50,000 cost. Again, the benefit of one plan for the county allows each municipality to be identified within the plan and then have an overreaching plan. So our idea is to have an overreaching plan with every municipality profiled within that plan, because understandably, every municipality has different priorities, and we understand that. By completing a plan in this way, every municipality has a say in the ability to identify those local priorities. We spoke earlier that if you don't create your own plan and the Ontario government comes in and creates one for you, they may be establishing priorities that you may or may not agree with. So the idea of getting ahead of this before that happens is very beneficial. So from that, we open the floor to questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Any questions? Okay. There is a recommendation there, and I guess whether this would be bridge financing. I understand there is some grant opportunities available.
That's correct.
But those are not.
We haven't made application for any grants at this point, but there are grants available to oversee those costs for sure.
So if we could get support for this recommendation, whether it be for bridge financing until the grants come in to get the plan started, because we do have till the end of the year to complete it. As you had mentioned, each municipality is required to have a plan. A made-in-Lambton solution would be better than a made-by-the-province solution, I believe, for us. So Councillor Bradley.
It's going to cover the cost at the local level. If this is just a flow-through, we pass this, and then we receive the reciprocal money back that covers this. And I do, it's just amazing. This is just another downloading that is being put on us, imposed upon us, without us requesting this. And it's not directed at the speakers, I understand your position. But if the money's going to flow through back to us, that's fine. I'm more than willing to move the resolution. Do we know that?
As far as the grant money, we haven't done any in-depth research on it to see if the grants available would cover potentially $50,000. So I can't accurately answer that question, unfortunately. We haven't started that process.
Any other comments? Councillor Stark.
A question actually to you, Warden. Why would this not be referred to the budget deliberations, particularly in light of the fact that there may not be 100% recapture of these monies and in fact would then become an expense?
You want to speak to that?
Sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My understanding is that action is required now to get the consultant lined up so that the plan gets in place, or the work that's required to get the plan in place moves forward, so that there is an issue in the event of a month delay, and not only in terms of a month delay, but also potential that if it were to be declined in a month, the further delay that would cost to this process. To the extent that I could assist, and I'm involved sort of at the most on the periphery of this, I understand that there's an ask for $50,000 from this council to assist in retaining this consultant to help carry out that work, and that work would be beneficial for each one of the local municipalities within Lambton County, and that there is some sort of understanding or prospects for grants to help that would be applied through either the committee or the police services organizations to fund the $50,000. And ultimately, if that doesn't come through, then the cost would be an issue that could be that could rest here at $50,000, or an issue that could be then billed back to each one of the local municipalities on a pro rata basis, given that they all benefit from the work. So the way I see it is, there's an ask for $50,000. There's an ask for $50,000 that I'm told needs to be dealt with sooner rather than later. And it could be conditional on two factors. One, that there be a grant application submitted, and that the grant application, if funds are received, be returned to the county to pay off the $50,000, and if there's any balance owing, that balance be billed out to the respective local municipalities on a pro rata basis.
You have a follow-up, Councillor Stark?
Actually, I'm prepared to make a motion with the two conditions that the clerk has identified in terms of how the money would flow back, and in the event that the money does not flow back in total, that a portion to each municipality would occur for any of the unfunded difference. So I'll make that motion.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Arnold? Councillor Cook, you had your hand up.
I was just going to say basically what the clerk had said, that we've talked about this at the police board, that we'd proportion it back to each representative if there was a cost that we'd be paying for it anyway. Individually, it would probably cost each municipality more than $5,000, I would imagine, a piece to get it done. So I think the cost to get it done is better going this way.
Okay. So I have a motion moved and seconded on the floor that we support the request, subject to those two conditions, grants be applied for, and that it be costed back on a pro-rata basis. Any further discussion on that? All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation. We have a couple staff presentations, but I'm going to take a 10-minute recess now to give a stretch. And we also have our O.P.P contracts are here, and I'd like the mayors that are part of the Police Services Board, I believe all the councils have supported that through resolutions. We need signatures, and you're all in one spot. Our clerk is going to bring it up to this table, and I'd like the mayors from the police board to sign that while we have the break. It'll slow down the line up at the washroom. We reconvene at 9:30. 11:30. We'll break by 12:30. Huh. We're good? We'll call us back to order. We still have a couple of presentations. Staff presentation, I have Stephanie Ferreira for the Local Immigration Strategy Lambton and Stephen Thompson. Come forward to make your presentation on the local immigration strategy. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Warden, Council, and attendees. Okay, where do we start? Hi, everyone. I'm not here to ask for money, if that's any consolation. We're 100% federally funded. The Sarnia-Lambton LIP is a community-wide multi-sectoral partnership that works to increase collaboration between settlement agencies and smooth the settlement and integration experiences of newcomers. Our LIP is made up of a council which oversees Sarnia-Lambton LIP's activities and sector working groups which study gaps in the immigration and settlement experience and make recommendations to fill them. While we don't provide direct services to newcomers and immigrants, we do work with those that do. Together, we're implementing a community-based settlement strategy created to address challenges that serve as barriers to meaningful integration. Under each one of these areas of focus or pillars are a number of action steps with corresponding activities to be implemented by working groups comprised of relevant stakeholders and community partners. The next few slides will provide examples of recent and ongoing work being undertaken by LIP Council and staff. The purpose of the Newcomer Youth Summit held last year was to coordinate and connect service providers and immigrant youth to increase communication and streamline referrals. We arranged seating at each table of service providers that included volunteer immigrant youth and encouraged communication by facilitating group-focused activities, thus ensuring meaningful conversation amid service providers and youth. Additionally, several activities including art, written and spoken word workshops, and get-to-know-you games were held throughout the day. Data collected through surveys of participants indicate that the event had not only met its goals, but had indeed proved that immigrant youth should be made a priority for service providers. The Anti-Racism Arts Program, or ARAP, as we refer to it, was developed and funded by the Government of Ontario through the Municipal Innovation Fund. It was implemented within Lambton County to foster inclusion by celebrating and sharing the benefits of diversity and immigration. The goal of ARAP was to engage Lambton County residents in challenging racism through a series of multimedia art workshops for those who have experienced racism and discrimination, and or for those with a desire to challenge negative sentiments. an anti-racism challenge for youth, community engagement and awareness, and community-wide anti-racism campaign supported by a community of concerned citizens and professionals known as the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Speaking to the last point on the last slide, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee was created to ensure activities undertaken through the 2008 and 19 Anti-Racism Arts Program were not forgotten, and to continue work to addressing rising anti-immigration sentiments and discrimination. Some activities of this committee include, but are not exclusive to, a community-driven anti-racism campaign. The All Are Welcome Here component of this two-part campaign is to provide All Are Welcome Here lawn and window signs and stickers to local residents, businesses, and community organizations to provide a visual depiction of what we strive to achieve, which is making Lambton welcome to all. The 1,000 Acts of Welcome aspect of the campaign is designed to promote the benefits of immigration and welcome refugees by encouraging community members to post acts of generosity, kindness, and/or support towards newcomers to Lambton online and on social media. In 2020, we submitted a federal grant in the amount of $150,000 to further this project by promoting diversity, inclusion, and positive interactions and addressing racism and discrimination with a focus on online hate, media literacy, and recently received a grant for $43,000 to host events and workshops to recognize Black History Month in February. We were awarded a 5-year grant from IRCC to continue the work of the Sarnia-Lambton Local Immigration Partnership well into 2025. After conducting research in the community, we are revising the settlement strategy to reflect current needs of an existing and new immigrants and address challenges to meaningful integration in Lambton, along with a work plan to support activities with long-term and sustainable outcomes. In addition to active social media sites, our web presence is moving from an online portal to Lambton County's website this month, where more information about the LIP and 1,000 Acts of Welcome campaign can be found easily and are linked to LIP Council community partners. We continue to seek additional sources of funding to support local initiatives like the Anti-Racism Arts Program and Black History Month and other programs that promote Lambton County as welcoming. While over the last several years, activities under each of these community engagement, coordination of services, and research and development pillars have been successfully implemented, we have been relying upon regional supports in the area of employment services. But after comparing priorities and activities with the SLEP strategy, we have identified several areas where we can partner and achieve greater impacts, and that's where Stephen comes in. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. And good morning again. I'm here on behalf of Carrie Malosh from our team, who unfortunately had meetings scheduled in Toronto. Meetings were scheduled about 4 months ago, and that was before this presentation came up. So I'm here to and pleased to attempt to do as good of a job as Carrie might have done in presenting her slides to council today. As Stephanie correctly mentioned, we do work very closely with the LIP. With the support of County Council, just over a year ago, we were able to hire a full-time employee, being Carrie Malosh, to head up our new resident attraction efforts focused on workforce and entrepreneur attraction, which ties directly into the SLEP people pillar within our strategy, the first pillar of the economic development strategy, and also ties into the employment pillar, which is the first pillar of the LIP strategy. In 2019, our activities were guided by targeting new residents with international talent, really honing in on in-demand skills as well as honing in on entrepreneurs. So a lot of efforts were spent along with our other economic development team members to identify the occupations and skills that are in greatest need by our employers to create a win-win to help our companies expand as well. We also conducted a number of awareness building activities. We participate closely, as the chair of our board mentioned in the previous presentation, with the Newcomer Centre of Peel, and we've participated in 2 job fairs at the Newcomer Centre of Peel. We also hosted 2 bus tours, bringing new residents to Ontario, to the Sarnia-Lambton area, to experience firsthand what our wonderful region has to offer. We also launched a digital marketing campaign that has just gone live as targeted online digital marketing based on the Google searches and other searches that individuals do. If you're searching for less traffic or affordable community or other characteristics that align with what we have to offer, those online digital ads get mysteriously fed onto the internet users' screen to let them know about the Sarnia-Lambton area, even if they weren't already searching for those specific words. We've also worked very closely with Lambton College and even worked with GM Oshawa, which was holding a job fair, recognizing there are a lot of talented people that have worked at GM Oshawa for many years, and how can we encourage some of those folks to consider our area after GM winds up its operations there. In addition to attracting new residents, we've also had a very strong focus on developing our local talent. We hosted an event in collaboration with the local immigration partnership as well as Lambton College to invite employers to attend, to invite international students to attend, and to hear presentations from the federal government about the programs that exist to hire international students, as an example. Was really to open employers' eyes to the prospect of hiring this talent, as well as hearing some of the success stories. And I understand as a result of that event, one individual was already able to transition into full-time employment in the Sarnia-Lambton area. Second last slide here. Again, this really is a team sport. So our team members have been working very closely with the Sarnia-Lambton Industrial Alliance, with the Sarnia-Lambton Physician Recruitment Task Force, to help employers connect with talent and with the access to medical services that are needed. Working very closely with the Sarnia-Lambton Workforce Development Board on the Beyond Healthcare Initiative. Working with the Lambton College International Students Community Network, and working with the PAIRS Committee, which is a county-wide committee along with the school boards to support employer engagement and to encourage employers to think about apprentices and others from skilled trades and high schools. So with that, we've got 11 seconds to spare, and I believe time for questions.
Thank you for that update. Any questions of council? Councillor Han.
This is a similar question that Councillor Bird asked earlier. So when you're talking about the bus trips, that, bringing people to the community, is there a tracking of how you've been successful, or has there been any results of that, of people that have wanted to come here and live later?
Warden, through you, yes, there certainly is a follow-up process that we have with the individuals. It's actually much easier to track that because we've got access to the registrants' information. They registered through us, so we do have their information, and we are able to do follow-up. So it's much easier to track that than some other things like assessment growth and other things that we just don't necessarily have access to the stats around. So yes, we are continuing to do follow-up with each and every person that provided an email address and was on those trips to our area.
Okay. Councillor Bradley?
Just more of a comment. Last Thursday there was a meeting involving the people up there speaking, Mr. Van Horn and others at the college, and there is a very concerted effort underway right now to attract people here. And it has brought everyone together and trying to eliminate any duplication. Is very focused on where we want to be in 5 or 7 years, and what was outlined today is critical to that. And I think in the next 2 or 3 months you'll see this strategy unfold, and hopefully there'll be buy-in around this table, because if the local councillors and mayors don't support it, it's not going to become real. And that ask will be coming to you, I think, in the next 3 to 6 months. So I think it's a job well done so far. Now we've got a lot more work to do, so I appreciate what's happened so far.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Keep up the good work. Our last staff presentation here is for an update on the coronavirus, and we have with us Dr. Ranade, Medical Officer of Health. He's not wearing a mask, so that's a good thing.
On that note, thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. So can you hear me? Yes, I think so. So you will note that there's no presentation sort of for the screen. Part of the reason for that is because the situation is evolving so fluidly that if I were to have made a presentation last week, the numbers would be all out of date by now. So what I'm here to do for you for just about 5 minutes, not even 10, is really just to give you an outline on the status of the novel coronavirus and what Lambton Public Health and the County of Lambton are doing in terms of preparation. So you will know that by now there are over 20,000 cases globally from the novel coronavirus outbreak that started in Wuhan in Hubei province in China. And there have been concerted efforts at the national as well as provincial levels to sort of understand what's going on globally and then to make plans regarding Canadians. I'm not really going to discuss those because you're probably hearing them in the news, and those discussions are really happening at the federal level. But I will just highlight for you that there have been 5 cases in Canada, 3 of which have occurred in Ontario, none of which have occurred in Lambton, and the role of Lambton Public Health at this time is really threefold. The first is assessment and surveillance. That's a critical public health function, so we're keeping a close eye on the situation globally and locally. The second is case and contact management. That's another critical public health function. And so were there to be a case here, we would be handling the coordination of the testing of that as well as the management of the contacts around that case. And the third thing is working with our health system and non-health system partners to ensure things like emergency preparedness. So where that relates to the novel coronavirus, we're working with them to make sure that they are prepared and have the things that they need. So with that said, I will stop and allow you to, have any questions that you have, because I think that's probably a better way of using the next 7 minutes and 53 seconds.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions of council? Councillor Napper.
Just for my own benefit, how do you know if you got this stuff? What's the symptoms of it?
Novel coronavirus is not very different from other coronaviruses. The symptoms range, but likely they're going to be similar to what you might expect from a cold or a fever. So you'd have a fever, you'd have some cough, a dry cough, and if it progressed, it would progress into a pneumonia. So not substantially different symptoms from things like influenza, things like other coronaviruses that are circulating.
Follow-up?
So are you advising everybody that has a sniffle or something just as a precaution to contact your doctor, or just let it take its course and say, well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't? What can I do as a high-risk patient to make sure I'm safe?
The answer really is that you can do the same things that you could do to protect yourself from other respiratory infections, right? So keeping yourself healthy, washing your hands frequently, getting your flu shots and keeping your immunizations up to date, and staying away from people when you're sick. Those are the things that you can do to keep yourself well. Yeah, I mean, just as an example, I was curious about, when you walk into this room, for example, and you're sort of shaking hands and all of that kind of thing, that's a risk factor, right? Those kinds of behaviors are risk factors for transmitting respiratory diseases. So pay attention to those things. Those are the kinds of things that you can really do to keep yourself well, but it's not substantially different, as regards the novel coronavirus. Okay.
Councillor Stark.
With respect to identifying potential people that would be ill, I believe when you travel to China, and particularly over the last 2 weeks, this is before the travel ban that was instituted in China, you have to register, or you should be registering with the Canadian consulate. Do we, as members of Lambton County, have any idea about the ability to track those individuals who would be coming from Lambton County, who have gone to China, and subsequently, I realize that if they're returning to Canada by way of the organized return, that they would be quarantined. My question is whether or not there would be any individuals from Lambton County who somehow or other circumvented that system and end up coming back? Would we be able to identify them?
Not to my knowledge. I don't think that that's so that's one method of identification, and the other method of identification is, if you come into a major airport, there are some screening protocols there around if you've been in an exposed region, and if you have symptoms, then you're being directed to notify your local public health agency. But other than that, no, not at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Bird.
Warden Weber. I'm just curious, Dr. Ranade. 10 years ago, we had the SARS virus, China to Toronto. 10 years later, we have the coronavirus, China to Toronto. So if there's any way at all of mapping what happens or protecting for the future, clearly they didn't do it from 10 years ago. Have you any comments on that? How we protect ourselves, anything to be learned from it?
Microphone.
So, I think that there were a lot of lessons that were learned from SARS. There were there was a commission that issued recommendations, and some of those recommendations have been put into place. But I think the key lesson post-SARS was that a really highly functioning public health system is critical. So that's one of the lessons. I think the other lesson is that timely sort of sharing about information related to the virus globally is very helpful. And we've seen that this round we've seen that happen more this round than with SARS. So we were able to, because the virus genome was made public, people were able to develop diagnostic tests much more quickly than we had done when SARS came around. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. See no further questions. Thank you for that update.
Okay, thank you.
And keep a watch. Item number 10, minutes of council's open session from November 27th. Is someone prepared to move those minutes? Councillor Miller, second by Councillor Deputy Warden Marriott. Any questions on the November 27th minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item number 11 is our annual general meeting of the County of Lambton Community Development Corporation, and we have, I think, a revised agenda has been placed on your desk. So do we adjourn our council meeting to do that? Yeah. So I would ask for a motion to adjourn our council meeting and open a meeting, the annual general meeting of the Lambton County CDC. Councillor Bradley, seconded by Councillor Bean. Any questions? All in favor of that? That is carried. Introduction of members present. So on the second page there, we have Councillor Mike Bradley, Judy Morris, Kevin Marriott, myself, Tom Schiffler, Miriam Capretz, Allison Awart, and Lisa Cacchino, as well as Ron Van Horn, Secretary, and Larry Palachero as Treasurer. I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Cook, second by Councillor Napper. All in favor of that? That is carried. Thank you. I would ask that anyone has a declaration of pecuniary interest to file it with our clerk. Seeing none, I missed number 1, appointment of chair. I think we need a motion to appoint a chair. Councillor Bradley?
Well, the tradition, instead of myself as chairing, I would nominate you to chair the meeting, Mr. Warden.
Thank you for that. I don't know why I'm trying to speed things up, but I shouldn't be doing that. So. Anyway, all in favor of that motion to appoint myself as chair? Thank you. Presentation of financial statements. And our Director of
Through the chair, in front of you, you have the financial statements of the County of Lambton Community Development Corporation. One of the things that I probably should note is that these statements here reflect the public sector accounting standards for financial statement presentation, which was different than you've seen in the past. The budget numbers are now included in the statement of financial activities for the fiscal year ending April 30th, 2019. As you can see, statements were prepared by BDO, and statements basically are presented fairly in all material respects regarding the financial position of the corporation. If there are any questions on the particular statements, I'd be more than happy to try to guide you through them, but these statements are presented fairly and reflect the current standards.
Get a motion for the financial statements, and then we'll get to any questions. Moved by Deputy Warden Marriott, second by Councillor Miller. Any questions regarding the financial statements as presented? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we now call on Dr. Albion to do an update on the park.
Thank you, Warden Weber, and good morning, Council. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about an update of the park's activities over the last year. This morning, I will provide you with an overview of the park's increased utilization and value of our assets, our research and commercialization activities, and the research park's vision for the future. The Western Research Parks are very successful and internationally recognized based on our support of our research and commercialization tenants, their economic impacts on the region, and our success rates following the graduation of our tenants from the park. The park's current occupancy rate is 81%, with a mix of anchor tenants and startup companies. The T-Tech call center closed its operations at the park last year, which dropped our occupancy to 75%. Since their lease terminated in October, we have quickly increased our occupancy up to 81%. We use the year 2012 as our reference point, since we struggled at this time due to the loss of large anchor tenants, which dropped our occupancy below 50%. Due to the early termination penalty fees included in the call center's lease agreements, their departure may not affect the park's finances until later this year. Our objective is to have a new tenant who will help drive economic growth in the region occupy this space before the termination payments end. Following our restructuring, we are in a stronger financial position. We have also completed energy savings programs, which have resulted in cost savings of nearly $650,000 annually. Our commercialization center is home to approximately 30 tenants, ranging from startups and small businesses to research studies and projects that are near commercialization. We have an increasing number of graduates establishing and growing their companies in Sarnia-Lambton. We have a range of tenants conducting research in our labs, including applied research centers, university spin-offs, and startup companies. All of our research labs were full for a number of months last year, with students, researchers, engineers, and technologists conducting research projects for local clients, supporting our local industries, and advancing our emerging industrial sectors. We're also home to a number of pilot plant tenants at various stages of the commercialization process. One of our recent graduates and success stories is Greencore Composites. Their technology to produce a wood fiber plastic composite material was commercialized at the park and purchased by one of the world's largest pulp and paper manufacturers for commercial production. Our key academic partners continue to be Lambton College and Western University, specifically the Faculty of Engineering. We host the research centers, partner on key events, and we support the initiatives of both institutions. Last fall, we hosted a full-day visit for the new Dean of Engineering and Engineering's Director of Development. They met with many of our local partners, and we are pursuing new opportunities with the faculty. We also look forward to our upcoming meeting with Western's new President and Vice President of Research. They will visit the park to learn more about the region, and we will explore future collaborations with the university. The Research Park and our key partners have created a commercialization alliance, which uses the strength of all partners to support economic growth in the region. It is our goal to attract and train more talent to the region, build globally recognized clusters, and provide better support for companies. We provide enhanced support for our startup companies during the commercialization process, which has contributed to our high success rate of graduates from the park. The strategic priorities for the park continue to be the increased utilization and value of our assets. Our future commercialization successes will result from broadening our influence in new areas of technology and innovation to create economic growth in collaboration with our partners. Through the development of new sectors that are a fit with the region's existing sectors, new products, processes, and businesses will result. And we have grown our tenant base in all of these developing sectors over the last year. The park is currently working with our partners to create new initiatives that will attract new companies and innovations to Sarnia-Lambton. Our joint initiatives will bring together all the strengths of our partners to support economic growth and development. The park and our tenants are creating national and local impacts. Following the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario's visit to the park last year, she speaks about the park and the region as a sustainability success story. The Green Core product that was successfully commercialized at the park is now manufactured by an international company. Forward Water, whose pilot plant is based at the research park, demonstrated a plant in Alberta for a client with a local presence and is now establishing their technical R&D center at the park for new application development. The federal government announced $5 million in federal funding towards woodland biofuels, first commercial plant, which they anticipate will be built here in Sarnia-Lambton. And we are also hosting a major announcement for one of our tenants in the upcoming weeks. In 2019, our peak occupancy was 96%, and our commercialization center occupancy peaked at 89%. We had a total of 47 tenants at the park over the year. Last year, 2 of our existing tenants expanded on site, and we welcomed 9 new tenants to the park. These tenants included a mix of local companies and new companies to the region. We also had 4 companies graduate, resulting in a total of 21 graduates over the last 7 years. Currently, our occupancy rate is growing at 81% and 48 tenants, which is an update since the slide deck was submitted. I am pleased to report that we have signed 10 new lease agreements since the beginning of December for new tenants at the park and tenants currently expanding on site. Many of these tenants are startup companies from the local community with very good potential for growth. In conclusion, we are fulfilling the park's mandate of supporting economic growth and development. We have become the preferred location for innovation companies to become established and grow, and we have expanded the research base in the region. Our strong partnerships and initiatives have resulted in new tenants at the park and economic growth for Sarnia-Lambton. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions? It's great to see the park doing very well, and congratulations on that. Through to that, Councillor Bradley.
Long journey since we started this in 2003, and Catherine's done an outstanding job, and along with Tom Stryfer, in changing the direction of the park. And she glossed over it, and I won't go into the details, but next week you'll get an invitation to a very significant announcement related to the park and its future. And that's what's been happening on a regular basis. So It's a very big success story. The leap of faith the county took to do this was immense back in 2002, 2003. We have to keep on reminding ourselves it was a huge risk, and everyone in this room voted for it. And it's turned out to be a success, so congratulations.
If there are no further questions, we have on the second page a resolution. The following positions be confirmed. There someone to Councillor Arnold, seconded by Councillor Hand, that the following positions be confirmed for the board, listed there. Any questions? All in favor of that? That is carried. And the second motion there, we need a mover and a seconder for the Secretary and Treasurer of the Board. Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Councillor Loosely. All in favor of that recommendation? That is carried. Thank you very much. Need a motion for the appointment of auditors. Moved by Councillor Napper that we continue with the same auditing firm. Second by Councillor Miller. Questions? All in favor of that? That is carried. Any other business for this AGM of the CDC? Seeing no other business, I would ask for a motion to close the AGM and resume our council meeting. Councillor Marriott and Councillor Loosely. All in favor of that? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. Item 12 of our agenda is correspondence. We have a piece of correspondence regarding farmland trust to receive and file. A motion for that correspondence. Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Councillor Cook. Any questions regarding that piece of correspondence? All in favor of that? That is carried. We have a couple pieces of correspondence that we're asking for some action. This is one from the rail group. Councillor Bradley?
Want to deal them together or separately?
We could support.
I'd move that we endorse what the rail group's asking for. It fits in perfectly with this new Southwestern Ontario Transportation Plan. And then I would also move, if you wanted in that same motion, that we also support the extension for senior care at Lambton. I'll separate them if that makes it easier for him.
Okay.
So move the rail resolution.
The resolution A and B.
Yeah.
Is that what you're moving? That we support those?
I'm going to ask we do them separately because I know the rail group wants to send it out that they receive the endorsement as council, so I don't want to muddy the water, so I'll just move the A1 at this point.
Okay. So there's a resolution attached, or the response from the resolution from the rail that you're moving. Council support that resolution. You have a seconder for that. Councillor White. Any discussion regarding that? Councillor Loosely.
Yes, Mr. Warden, I like the actual wording where they talked about other potential connections maybe in the future another year. I just think, for example, the bus line going to London, stopping at Reese's Corners or somewhere within the county, so maybe some of the other municipalities could take advantage of that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of that resolution, supporting that resolution? That is carried. Thank you. Item B, navigating senior care. They're asking to extend the deadline to March 31st. Councillor Bradley, second by Councillor Arnold. Any questions or discussions on that? All in favor of that? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We have correspondence from member municipalities. The city has opportunity to designate veteran-only parking spots around the city, and the request is referred to the the County of Lambton Council for support. Councillor Bradley.
I believe it was more just for information, just so local municipalities could know that the city of Sarnia was doing this. I think some of you probably do this anyhow. So I think it was more for information. If someone in the city council can correct me, that's what I thought the motion was.
So we just received this for information? Is that what yours?
Well, because the county has no jurisdiction over parking, so it's, I guess, I would see it just informing you that this is what we're doing. If you would like to consider it, please do so.
So we're just receiving this. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Han. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. Item B, this was sent here. There's a correspondence regarding the deep geological repository in the Bruce, and I understand that's been, First Nations has nixed that. Councillor Cook? Move that receive that information. Seconded by Councillor Broad. Questions regarding that? Councillor Bradley.
Dan, I've been involved in this issue since 2012. I understand because of the timing of receiving and filing it, but I really think it's important, and we have already endorsed this back, I think it was 2015 or 2016, that for the record, because until it's actually pulled back, it's still there. So I would suggest we just re-endorse what we did back in 2015, 2016, and that's the same when I've been getting contact from other communities. I've been saying, please just endorse it so it's still there on the record.
There is a motion on the floor to receive this, and it's been seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Bean?
Thank you, Warden and members of County Council. I have a hard time wrapping my head around the idea that you want to remove the waste from a site that's already producing it. Once it's buried in the bedrock, and we're talking probably 1,600 meters in the ground, and it's encapsulated in cement, I think is a lot safer than trying to move it down the highway and putting it into a different spot. So I really have a hard time with it.
Councillor Bird?
Thank you, Warden Weaver. I just want to stay with the result that's just happened. I would like to publicly commend Chief Lester Anaquat of the Sorgi and Ojibwe First Nations. Their vote made a decision. I think it was the only vote, it was the right vote, where they put our water as the first most important consideration and didn't succumb to any other suggestions that were put forward to them. So I just publicly like to say thank you very much for that no vote. I think we have to move forward from there. Thank you.
Councillor Bean?
Yeah, once it's down in the bedrock and it's cemented off, it's not coming in contact with any freshwater zones at all. And I think that has to be made clear, because it should be back in the ground where it belongs.
Okay. We still have a vote to receive and file. Follow-up, Councillor Bird?
Yes, thank you, Warden Weaver. I just wanted to comment through the chair to the councillor's last comment. It may sound like it's very safe, all encapsulated in these concrete blocks, many, many meters below the bed of the water. However, the problem is not once it's there. The problem is the drilling, the high-powered drilling, and all the vibrations it will cause, the many problems that alone will cause before it's ever deposited. It will cause fissures. It could cause a mini earthquake. It could cause all kinds of things. So the drilling can be compared to the fracking and all the problems that it will cause. So I think we have to really consider that first. Thank you.
Okay. Going to call the question. The vote is, or the motion is that this be received and filed. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Item number 13 is information reports. Motion to receive those reports. Deputy Warden Marriott, Councillor White. All in favor? Oh, questions? Councillor Loosley.
Yeah, Mr. Warden, just in regards to the fees and the comparisons, I just wanted to maybe have staff or be aware of, there were 4 issues that I found that I would like them to consider or look at. One is the zoning compliance letter, which is $70. Only 1 of 8 counties charge a fee, and I may have this incorrect, and if I am, I apologize. Applications for exemption to clear woodlots, we charge $1,000. 5 counties, there's no charge, and the others are $100, $300, $205. Exemption for approved exemption permit to clear woodlots, $150. No other counties charge a fee. And a notice of intent to cut, and again, it's a small amount, other than here, and no other counties charge a fee. So I just wanted to bring this to staff's attention, maybe, just so everything else I thought we were in line with. I just think we need to look at those. Thank you.
Okay, so noted. I have a motion to receive for information. Councillor Stark.
Just to follow up on those comments, I don't see where Lambton is in line as it relates to official plan amendment fees, both county and local. We're way out of line with respect to the other counties from my perspective. And if we're going to draw our attention to those inequities, I think we should also look at the inequities going the other way. We're not charging enough. Thank you.
Okay, so noted. Motion is to receive for information. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 14, we have some minutes, Creative County minutes and Economic Partnership minutes. Motion to receive those, Councillor Arnold, second by Councillor Napper. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Committee AM minutes. I would call on Chair Ryan White to present these minutes.
Thank you, Warden Weber, members of County Council. I present to you the minutes of the AM Committee from January 15, 2020 for your consideration.
Thank you. Item number 1 is the appointment of chair. Item number 2, item number 3 and 4 is the appointment of vice chair. Item number 5 is the Agriculture Advisory Committee appointment. Item number 6 is the Audit Committee. Infrastructure Development Services. Item 7, correspondence. Item 8, correspondence from municipalities. Information report, item 9. Item 10 regarding County Road 7. Item 10 regarding County Road 2 and County Road 26. Item 12 dealing with the oversized load corridor. Item 13 regarding the conservation authorities. Public Health Services, item 14 is correspondence. Item 15 regarding tuberculosis prevention. Cultural Services Division, item 16 is correspondence. Item 17 is information reports. Item 18 is the Library Policy Manual. Item 19 was the log cabin preservation, and that motion was tabled. I believe we deal with that further on in the agenda. Item 20 is dealing with that as well. Office of the CAO, item 21 is correspondence. In camera for motion 22, 23, and motion number 24 is adjournment. Councillor White.
Thank you, Warden Weber. I move that this council adopt the minutes of the AM committee from January 15, 2020 as presented.
Seconder for that, Councillor Ferguson. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Committee PM minutes, Vice Chair Councillor Broad.
Thanks, Warden Weaver. In the absence of Chair Jackie, who's sunning herself in the south right now, I hereby present the committee PM minutes for approval.
Thank you. Item 1 and 2 is an appointment of chair. Item 3 and 4 is an appointment for the vice chair. Item 5 is an appointment for the Accessibility Advisory Committee representative. Long-term care division. Item 6 is correspondence. Item 7 is information reports. Corporate Services Division. Item 8 is the fees and fee schedules. Item 9, 10, and 11, dealing with that as well. Finance, Facilities, and Court Services. Item 12 is the year-end report on reserves. Social Services Division. Item 13 is correspondence. Item 14, information reports. Item 15, comprehensive report to council from SLEP. Item 16, a payment card program. Councillor Bradley.
So on number 14, item B, the information report, it was a report discussing the merits of a job task force, so I understood it correctly. I'm not on that committee. And I think there's not really a motion there, but I've understood the report. It was basically the staff was saying back that, yes, some people would like to participate in this, but it's really not necessary. I would respectfully disagree with that. So I'm going to move that we endorse the concept of a jobs task force for Lambton County and speak briefly to it if I get a seconder, and then I would ask for a recorded vote.
Okay, is that in order? Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Bird. Discussion?
Very, very briefly, there are organizations, you just heard a couple of them here today, that are doing some great things in economic development, SLEP, the Local Improvement Partnership, and the Research Park. But this is more encompassing. And a lot of these groups have indicated, like SLEP, that they're going to participate in this discussion. And it's modeled in other places, but it's to take a more comprehensive look at where we're going. And there was a report out the other day, and I should have sent it out to County Council, showing that about 70% plus of the job creation in Ontario, which is doing very well right now, is happening in the GTA. And this actually was out of the Windsor Star, and they were pointing out Windsor, London, Sarnia, this region, we're not getting the benefits of that very prosperous Ontario right now. So what is the harm of saying, let's not endorse the status quo, let's put this group up at very little or no cost and see what we can come up with, which is different than what we're doing now. And that's why I support this, and I would hope others would as an experiment to see if there are things we could be doing better.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor Napper.
I totally agree there. I was just wondering, maybe I'm wrong, is why couldn't we enhance these people rather than start a new group? It takes time to get them together, and these guys are already doing it. Just send them a message saying, as to what you're expecting there, rather than try to form a new group and get off the ground running faster. I may be wrong on that, Mike, but.
If I could just, Mr. Warden, this is modeled on what London's done. London has a huge economic development department. They have all sorts of different strategies on immigration attraction, but the mayor went to the council and said, look, we need to do something broader. And some of that's been successful already. And it's looking at all the components. It's looking at housing, it's looking at attraction. And I don't like duplicating Mayor Napper of things either, but this is not, I think, going to duplicate. And the fact that SLEP and these other groups like the training board have said, we want to be part of this, I think that says this is broader. And again, if it doesn't work, what have we lost?
Okay. Any other discussion? Motion is that we establish a jobs task force. Councillor Napper.
Just to add that, could that include Lambton College? I know they've been quite active around our area here with the job fairs. They had one yesterday, and they've been very successful out here with local businesses, and they're great. We can just include them.
Mr. Warden, they are part of that, and there will be other parties that have been missed in the original motion. It goes back to what we did back in probably 2005. We brought all the community together of Lambton to talk about where do you want to go, and out of that came some really good things. And I don't see this as an onerous process. I don't see it as being bureaucratic. It's just an opportunity to bring all sorts of people together. And even when we're dealing with some of these other issues recently, it's amazing how, even though we're not a large community of Sarnia-Lambton, often we don't connect as well with each other. So I just see it as an opportunity. And if after 3 or 4 months it's not working, we'll come back and say that. If it is working, we'll just keep going.
Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Warden. Now, we did hear from persons this morning talking about the employment in the area with different significant things that will affect it. They're asking for a report to come back. Are we kind of getting ahead of it here? Should we be waiting for the report to come first to find out exactly what the reasoning is behind the significant hire, if it is significantly higher, before we start going forward with another committee or another process to figure out if we're right or wrong? We have asked for a report from the PM committee. I don't believe we've gotten that report fully come back yet, so I think I would like to wait until we get the report from the committee. We can diagnose at that point, then decide if then it's procedure to go ahead and start a committee at that point.
Councillor Bradley.
And I understand what Councillor Cook's saying, is that we know there's a structural issue here. And we've known that for years. We've been a one-dependent industry, and you can add tourism and agriculture into that. I think it's now just time for action, because the economy, again, in Ontario is doing very well, and we're doing fine, but we could be doing a lot better. And again, I say to you, what's to be lost? I'm not willing to endorse the status quo. I think, again, the good group's doing stuff, but I think we could be doing better, and this is a way to do it.
Okay. There was a report brought to the committee, and it was staff recommendation was that we have a number of services working on job creation throughout the county. So, and that was supported by the committee. This motion is to establish a task force, and it's been asked for a recorded vote. Councillor Hand, question?
Just to add to the motion, I didn't hear about, I would like to have everybody brought together as part of this initiative so that you're aware of what each group is doing. So it just says creating a task force, but I would like to see words added that say we want the other people brought into it, so we're not duplicating.
Okay. I'm going to ask the clerk to read the motion so I'm clear on it. So everyone is clear on it.
Thank you. So it's moved by Councillor Bradley, seconded by Councillor Bird, that this council endorses the concept of a job task force, and that one be created for the purposes of coordinating efforts, local efforts of local economic development groups, and for creation of job prosperity.
Okay. Everyone's clear, and the recorded vote is up with Councillor Hand as the first.
Yes.
Councillor Loosely? Yes. Councillor Marriott? Yes. Councillor Miller? Councillor Napper? Yes. Councillor Westgate? Yes. Councillor Stark? Yes. Councillor Veen? No. Councillor White? Yes. Councillor Arnold? Yes. Councillor Bird? Yes. Councillor Boucher? Yes. Councillor Bradley? Yes. Councillor Broad? Yes. Councillor Cook? No. Councillor Ferguson? Warden Weaver?
No.
It carries.
Okay. Item Office of the CAO. Item 17, Ontario Provincial Police contract. Item 18 and 19 were in camera. Item 20 raised from in camera. Item 21 was adjournment. Councillor Broad. Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Loosely? Any further questions? All in favor? That is carried. Items tabled from the previous minutes. Motion 19 from the AM regarding the preservation of Kineto Park log cabin. A motion was tabled to allow for the discussion to be brought before Sarnia Council. Councillor Bradley?
Mr. Warren, do you need a motion to lift it from the table and all that stuff? Or okay, I'll move that.
You move that we lift this from the table, seconded by Councillor Broad. All in favor of that? That is carried. The motion that is before us is that the AM committee support the ongoing discussions with the city and possibility of relocating the log cabin at Kineto Park to the Lambton Heritage Museum for the purpose of preserving and restoring it as a historical building. As that is the motion that is before us, raised from the table. Questions?
Mr. Warden, I'm willing to move that general resolution. The City Council decided that they're not going to be involved in a restoration because of the open-ended costs, but they did decide on a replication, which is going to take place, and they've authorized. I'm pleased the county has stepped up. The only thing I would ask, because that was the concern I would say at the city level, was an open-ended project, that they would get into this, and we had money donated from the Kinsman and from the Alex Foundation, and they get into the restoration and they find it's much more. So all I would ask, if the county wants to move forward on this, is to make sure you have the controls in there to make sure that this project stays within a reasonable range, knowing how difficult restorations can be. And so I'd be willing to move that.
Okay. This is, the motion is for ongoing discussions on possibilities or options. Councillor Stark.
So that's a motion that needs a seconder before it gets discussed?
Yes.
Right. So I'll second it for discussion purposes.
Okay. Discussion? Councillor Stark.
I have a real problem with giving an open-ended envelope in terms of funding. One of the reasons that the City of Sarnia decided not to do this was because there were potential fundraising that was going to happen in order to enable one project or the other. So that the project that is progressing at the City of Sarnia has in fact used the the fundraising opportunities that are there. My concern is that the county now is going to underwrite 100% of the funding to do this relocation, and I would like a strict budget understood or adhered to before we progress with this acceptance of the responsibility.
Okay. I'm not sure that there was funding from the county. I think it was the motions for ongoing discussions on possibilities and opportunities. There's no money attached.
And that's the point that I'm making, is I want to make sure that that discussion includes the funding, the future funding of this particular project. It's necessary to understand where we're going in terms of the costs involved.
Okay. Councillor Bradley.
As a mover of motion, that's what the motion is basically saying, is start these, well, you've had some preliminary discussions. We stopped them at the committee, we tabled them, and now to move forward and to get a handle on the costing. And it's not open-ended, because that was, as Councillor Stark said, that was our big concern. With the general area of spending, we said fine, but we couldn't get a guarantee that it wouldn't continue on. So that's what I think that report will come back to us to say, I would hope.
Okay. Councillor White.
Thank you, Warden. I'm looking forward to that report. Given the tabling, my question is whether or not this report will still be ready for February 5th as indicated in the motion. Excuse me, sorry, or when should we be able to expect that?
Mr. Meyer.
through you, Warden. Just to reaffirm, the intent was in January to get it sort of on the table and as a discussion point to let this body be aware of the fact that this idea was being proposed. But certainly the intent is on the 19th of February to bring a report forward that does outline some of the estimated costs, so there isn't sort of an open-ended consideration for this relocation, and to give this body some information about what the city's approach will be to relocating. So we are prepared to provide a report for the 19th.
Okay. Everyone in favor? Anyone call the question? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 17, items deferred from a previous meeting. This is regarding the 2020 services and fees schedule. Councillor Arnold, you'll move this seconded. Councillor Deputy Warden Marriott. Any further questions? All those in favor? That is carried. Notices of motion, I see none. Other business? Councillor Bradley.
Just on the budget, do you know all those grant requests we heard, the big ones at the beginning of the meeting? Could we just have a one-pager showing what the impact is on each individual community? Say we give $10 million to the hospital. What does that mean to Petrolia? What does that mean to Oil Springs? And we've done that in the past. So just, I'm not asking if there's anything complicated, but if we give whatever we've been asked on the different things, what does that mean to our individual communities?
Based on our percentage.
Exactly.
And the county share.
It's not complicated, but I think it's helpful to us.
Councillor Arnold, you'll second that be included with our budget. Any further questions? All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. Any other business? Notice of bylaws.
Thank you. It is moved by Councillor Hand, seconded by Councillor Ferguson, that bylaws 1 through 6 inclusively of 2020 as circulated be taken as read a first and second time.
All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
It's moved by Councillor Ferguson and seconded by Councillor Hand that those same bylaws, that is bylaws 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of 2020 as circulated, be taken and read a third and final time.
Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Motion to adjourn. Next regular meeting Wednesday, March 4th. In camera session to commence at 9 a.m. in Committee Room 3. Moved by Councillor Stark, seconded by Councillor Bean. Questions? All in favor? And if we have energy enough before lunch, we will sing O Canada.